Hi, and welcome back. So, some questions you might be asking yourself as a parent. How much screen time should my child be allowed? How do I decide what is the right amount of time? Or how much is too much? And these are important questions that we need to ask ourselves. I'm in many parenting and schooling groups, and this question comes up a lot. We started thinking about screen time and boundaries and how our kids use devices when they were younger. Our kids are now teenagers, but I remember a time when my daughter was, I think, around 6. She was playing an Ice Age game, and she made a small purchase of $50 worth of the Motherload of Nuts. And this started our conversation into these topics and these questions. And while I understand people posting in groups and communities and asking others their advice, and sometimes we can take this information and use it as experiments in our own lives and families, I think it's important that we dive a little bit deeper first ourselves before asking the question to others. And so some of the things that I think we can ask ourselves are these, so what do I think is the right amount of time? Or what do I see my child using that screen time for? What are they doing? What are they interested in? How am I using a screen? What are some of the benefits? What are some of the things that I would like to see them doing other than that? Have we talked to our children about it? Do they have concerns or thoughts on the amount of time or how it's used? Do they have some ideas on how to manage it? How do they see themselves managing it at the current time? And I think these are things that as we dive deeper into the question, we start to notice some things for ourselves. I think also too, when we first are able to look at ourselves and our own use, that can give us some idea of how we're perceiving others to use it. So let me give you a couple of examples. So let's say I use my device and I scroll through Instagram and I find myself comparing myself to others or judging myself in my less than exciting life, then I get frustrated and overwhelmed, and then I get drawn into a purchase of a hair wand that makes my hair naturally wavy, and then feel guilty about a purchase that I made impulsively, and then drown myself in a rerun of a Netflix series. So if that is my experience or what I'm seeing myself or others do, I can see how that concern would develop. But let's say I used my device and I was inspired by artists creating different projects, or maybe it inspired me to do my own project, or redesign a room, or create an outfit. Or let's say I watched something on it that was a debate seeing multiple perspectives, and it really got me curious as to understanding how different people view a situation. Or maybe I listened to some music or band on something that sparks my interest to learn a musical instrument. Or possibly I watch someone do a trek across Europe on a motorbike and I have something new to add to my bucket list. So depending on how we're using this time in these devices, it can have different effects. And I think it's important that we look at that before making any choices or judgments. I read a great article the other day about screen time, and I don't often read articles about screen time that really resonate with me, but this one did. So I will put the link in the description section below. But what he talked about in the article was that we are in this age of really where we are bombarded with information. It's information is coming from all angles. Um, it's information, it's knowledge, it's views and opinions, it's thoughts, it's stories, and um, what we need, the skill that we need in this day and age, is to be able to take this information and filter it and curate it and find what is meaningful and valuable for us. And in the article, he talks about this skill of indistractability. And I think that indistractability comes from our own awareness of being able to curate this information, being able to discern which information is helpful for me. How do I know how to use this information that's valuable to me? So the idea isn't necessarily to stop the flow of the information, but rather learn how to filter it. And yes, I think the biggest argument is that, there's these big companies, and yes, the developers and the creators, they know how to catch us and to grab us and to keep us tied on our devices. But I think what we need to do as humans and as parents is to really reinforce our own beliefs in our own power to discern and to make these choices ourselves. We need to do this for ourselves, and something that we need to approach our children with. And what he talks a lot about in the article is this idea and process of the best way to do this. And I think the best way for all of us to do this is to have this awareness around it, to talk to our children about it, have them understand what is happening behind the scenes, that those developers and creators do. They know how to catch us. But we also have a choice, and we get to choose. We put our time, what we find is valuable, what is helping us, or what we need in our lives. I think it's important that we talk to our kids about how these things work and how we make those choices. How do we set up tools to help us manage? How do we reflect on what is working and what isn't working for us? Having some discussions about, what might the concerns be, or how do we overcome them? And this is the skills that they need, because if we take away this opportunity that they have to learn to self-regulate, how are they going to do it when they're older and we're not around? If we're the ones that are regulating it for them, how do they learn how to regulate it themselves? Now, for any of you out there that are thinking, my child is only 5 or 6, how are they going to know these things? Well, the funny thing about the article is their child in the article was 5 years old. And what they said also in the article was, don't underestimate your child's ability to follow through. And I think we can often think, maybe they're too young to make these decisions, or maybe they don't know that, what these issues are, how they're arising. But I think this is our role as a parent, is to bring that up, to have those discussions and to help them become aware, and then let them start to make those choices for themselves. And we've seen that in our own family. We've given our children the opportunity to impose their own guidelines and boundaries. And then we find out, through discussion, did it work? How do you feel about it? What didn't work? Can we try something else? And that's where that learning to self-regulate comes in. And the younger that they start to do this, the more aware they become of themselves and their actions and how it affects them, the more resilient they are, and the more confident they are in making those decisions and being able to navigate them later in life. We need to learn how to avoid the distraction, but be able to hone in on what is important to us and valuable for us individually. And this is what I think we need to teach our kids. Thanks for watching. I'm Janine from Remindful Life. If you enjoyed this, click like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.